The Suffolk Public School Board will now come to order. Uh, We will have the pledge by Dr. Brooke.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have public input on the budget, and one person has signed up. That's Mr. Neighbors.
Good evening, Chairman Copeland, Vice Chair Byram, Superintendent Dr. Whitney, board members, and division administrators. Good evening. I'm Sidney Neighbors. I'm an 8th grade teacher at John Yates Middle School, but I'm addressing you tonight in my role as president of the Education Association of Suffolk, the local affiliate of the Virginia and National Education Associations, and our membership, which is comprised of teachers, administrators, and educational support personnel throughout the division. Each year, a representative from our association speaks at budget time to request salary increases for our staff, and this year is no exception. This year, however, my comments will be very brief, as we are pleased with the proposed budget, which reflects a salary increase of $3,000 per teacher, scale adjustments for the nurses and bus drivers, and the minimum 2% salary increase for full-time support personnel. I believe that our superintendent's budget this year is a reflection of the voices that have been heard in the past, reminding us that we owe it to our students to provide them with a high-quality education, and that begins with recruiting and retaining high-quality teachers. The proposed salary increase brings our division closer in line with neighboring divisions and sets a positive message to all our stakeholders that our students and our schools are worth our best investment. On behalf of our members, I respectfully ask that you vote to accept the proposed budget. In addition, our association commits to reach out to city officials as appropriate to request full funding of the budget. On another note, please know that the positive relationship that our association has with our school administration and governance is greatly appreciated. We work stronger when we work together, and your openness to our concerns and requests is noticed and appreciated. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Neighbors. Are there others who would like to make comments on the budget proposal?
Good evening, Chairman Copeland, Superintendent Dr. Whitney, and school board members. My name is Thelma Hinton. I reside at 2210 East Washington Street. I have a budget book from Suffolk Public School, and thank you all, as always, have been keeping up. I have a concern with the safety issue, and if you all would turn with me on page 20, I seem to find this to be a little bit disturbing to me. It's $3,466. I feel with the security that we're dealing with now, I would love to see an extra $2 million. At least $300,000 more to make it $1 million, because we cannot keep things the same with 19 schools and one alternative school. So will you all please look at the security for our children? It is needed, and especially in our middle school and high school and alternative schools. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Hinton.
Mm-hmm.
Are there others who would like to make comments? Not, we will close on the input. We would like to recognize, I think we have 3 council members here tonight. Councilman Ward, Councilman Johnson, and Councilman Fawcett on. Okay. Thank you all for your attendance. We appreciate that. Now we'll have certification of the closed meeting.
Certification of the closed meeting of March 8th, 2018 pursuant to Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended.
So move.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
We have on the public speakers on the agenda topic, we have one person who has signed, Mr. Brandy Roberts, on school scheduling and rezoning. Mrs. Robert.
Dr. Whitney, ladies and gentlemen of the school board, my name is Brandy Roberts. I'm a parent and a teacher in this district. I'm proud to work here in Suffolk. I love my school. I love my administration. I see a lot of good things happening here. But with that being said, there are things that need to be improved. I'm before you now on behalf of the children, my child, and the children at my school whose voices can't be heard tonight. Do you know what it's like to be dropped off up to 3 hours before the school day starts because mom and dad have to be at work? Do you know what it's like to have to attend school after that wait time and then try to do your very best to listen and learn? How about sitting and waiting when the day is over for almost an hour and then getting on a bus for another 45 minutes to be driven across town to be taken home? This is what many students between the ages of 5 and 10 in our district are currently subjected to. And I have a stack of letters here from my class expressing exactly how that feels. This evening, I'm urging you to please vote in favor of an earlier start time for elementary school children and to seriously consider the rezoning of our entire district. Elementary children, due to their age, must be monitored at all times, and although as a parent I realize middle and high schoolers need a watchful eye as well, I think we can agree that the necessary supervision younger children require is substantially more significant. I would like to share data specific to my school that are direct results of the district's current broken system. Teachers work over contractual hours watching children due to inconsistent arrival and dismissal of buses. The majority of our referrals come from bus behaviors, more so than any other kind. These referrals come from buses that have late pickups, double runs, or have to drive across town to deliver children to their homes. God bless these poor bus drivers. Late bus duty at our school often does not end until 5 o'clock or later. Given these time frames, that means teachers at my school essentially are working about 2 hours over their contractual hours at a minimum a week. Teachers can't leave on time because students can't leave on time. We have anywhere from 40 to 70 parents daily, that check their children out between 2:30 and 3:30 because they don't want to have to deal with the headaches of dismissal, their children have doctor appointments, dentist appointments, or there are extracurricular activities to be at. For me, this is the most unsettling statistic of all because my class has about 3 to 5 checkouts a week during this time of day. That is the entire science and Virginia studies block, both assessed on the district level, and one of those subjects for 4th grade is assessed at the state level. Students missing an hour of instruction time daily equates to 5 hours a week, 20 hours a month, 200 hours a school year. In the past 5 years, I've seen a huge growth in the area, lots of new homes. I think we all know what that means for our schools in the very near future. Our district needs to solve problems today with the future in mind. Let's not put a Band-Aid on these issues as a quick fix when we need long-term solutions. Rezoning is eventually going to have to happen. If not now, most certainly later. All we are doing here is prolonging an issue that needs resolving now. I am confident that with changing the school start times and rezoning our district, we can and will continue to put our children first. Thank you, and I would like to leave these letters from my class for Mrs. Bouchard because You represent my children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Are there others who would like to comment? Any comments?
And Chairman Copeland and Superintendent Dr. Whitney and school board members. As a former school board member, I have received several calls concerning the rezoning. And I believe in being fair. And I understand what the people north and south they are talking about. But I just want this board and the community to know that I remember before there was a Northern Suffolk, Booker T was the first school to be fully accredited. I'm wondering what has happened, and that is my concern. I have a great concern with the schools from John F. Kennedy, McBean, and Booker T, and Elephant's Fault. Those schools, they come up every year short. They come up short, and I understand this. The community, of course, do not want their children to go to a school that is not accredited. But as I have shared with the individuals that I have received phone calls from, that we have to make changes, and I don't know what happened to Booker T. And I'm out here, and I'm listening, and I'm not here to talking about what is coming up in November. I don't need that. But I have a main concern with Booker T School. It was one of the first one to be fully accredited, and the superintendent know it, and those individuals, Mosquito, you represent Booker T as well. And we need to talk about that and make sure that that is put out there, and it's put out there with good reason. And I have a concern, and I will be talking about that in the community as I travel through. God bless each and every one of you, and I hope tonight that you do the right thing. If I was in that chair, I would do the right thing. We've been under Section 5. When are we going to do it? It's 40 years. It was in the paper. I was just reading the paper. Someone shared with me, Ms. Hinton, get yourself a paper. We need to do the right thing. As this young lady said, it's going to happen. And the citizens have put you all there. We all have made tough decisions. I've served 4 years with you all. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hinton. Anyone else like to make comments?
Good evening. In regards to changing the high school times, I think you should put high school.
Give your name and your address, please.
I'm sorry. I'm Peyton Wilson. I reside at 5000 Lytton Spring, number 404. I don't think you should change the times for high school, again, because after school activities play a big role. Often traveling to other cities could take anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes. And if you're letting those kids out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, their games are going to start later. Those kids get home later, have homework to do, lots of other work to do. For example, one of my friends plays 3 sports, plays JV soccer, gets home late, has to go from that. If high school was to get out at 4 o'clock, he has to go to JV soccer, misses all those other sports, and still has to come home and do homework. Lots of homework, especially if you're one of the extra programs, high school programs. And also in regards to school rezoning, I also think that you should not do that unless for the completely necessary parts where the new schools have been built, because the other kids on the other parts of Suffolk, could be hard for them to meet new friends if they have to go to new schools, especially being anywhere from kindergarten to 5th grade. Could be very hard for them to find new friends, especially if they have any kinds of disabilities or challenges. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name's Robert Fank. I live on Leesville Road. When we moved out to Suffolk, my wife moved before me because we were military, and she found a good school system, and we moved here because of the good school system. Now, if you guys start jerking the rugs out from under the military on school systems, you're probably going to see a lot less military. If that's what you want, you'll get it. And that'll probably affect your other companies too, because those books that they send out telling you about all the neighborhoods, They're all electronically hooked anymore. I don't really think you guys want to fight that bull. Thank you.
My name's Heather Butler. I live on West Liberty Springs Road. I currently have 2 children at Pioneer Elementary School, one in kindergarten and one in 2nd grade. They have a 10-minute bus commute right now to go to school. If you move them downtown, they're looking at about an hour. You're taking 2 extra hours off of their day. They already are there till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they get home by about 4:15. So right now, that's not bad. But I was a kid who went to Southwestern, and that was an hour trip within my area because it's in rural areas. I don't think it's beneficial for the kids to be on the bus for over an hour, to be bused to the other side of the city. I am also a first responder, and I am a paramedic. I work 12 and 24-hour shifts. All of my extended childcare is in the Pioneer region. They are able to get on the buses there. They are able to get off the buses there. If you change my school zone to Booker T, you are taking away my ability to have appropriate childcare. I work as a first responder. I know what it's like in some of these people's houses. I can't just go to First Baptist and sign my kid up for daycare. I can't just have my kids sleeping at any house at any time. I want to know they are safe, and my family and my friends and my support system are all in the Pioneer region. And you're trying to uproot what stability I've been able to give them in a divided house. And I do not think it's fair to them when we specifically bought a house knowing they were going to be close to Pioneer and not shipped around. I would like for you to take into consideration the benefit of the kids that are already there, that are already established. I understand that y'all have to make changes to get your numbers up, but these are my kids' lives. They're not ticks of marks on a piece of paper somewhere that says, well, we'll just move this line over. It doesn't work that way for human beings. And I think y'all need to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Evening, school board. It's your Pebble again. I am Amy Ford. I live at 912 MacArthur Drive here in Suffolk. I have 3 children who I entrust to you for their education, and I am here as a person who is right in the middle. I can see the reasoning behind rezoning. I can see the reasoning behind not rezoning. And I've spoken to a large number of parents with whom I have contact in a large area of the city, and most of them have told me that they would be happy to see our schools rezoned if they knew that their children would be at an accredited school. No one wants their child in a school that is unaccredited, and I honestly am very sad to think that there are still students who will have to make that choice as to whether or not they stay in public school and stay in a school that is unaccredited or move to a completely different kind of schooling that is not public school at all. I would love to see greater support for our public schools in the community. I would love to hear people saying great things about our public schools. Unfortunately, what I hear from the parents I'm in contact with more than anything else is that they would not want their children moved from a school that is accredited into one that isn't, and they see that as unfair. I see that as unfair also. I see it as unfair for any child to have to go to a school that is not accredited. So I would say, whatever you do with rezoning, God bless you. It's a mess. But I would encourage you and admonish you to do whatever is necessary to get all of our schools safe and accredited so that no matter where we live in Suffolk, we feel like we're not in a situation where we have to choose between being separate and being equal. Thank you.
Else?
Evening, I'm Pamela Cirilli. I reside at 3586 Indian Trail. I beg of you, I implore you not to accept the proposed rezoning. Little Rock, Arkansas accepted a proposal very similar to that several years ago, and now their school system is not a good quality school system. All the people that could afford to pull their children out for private schooling did so. And so what they have left is children that are from families that cannot afford that. And so I think that this would be a grave mistake. I think it would reduce the quality of our education for our children. I use the term watered down education because I think that's what would happen. I also want you to think about the fact that if you move children to a large distance from their homes, that families are not going to be able to participate in their children's schooling, not going to be able to do the volunteer work at the schools, not be able to come in and help with different activities, things that really add to the quality of their education. And I also would like for you to think about, oh gracious, I'm very emotional about it, obviously. I can't even talk now. So I really do think that if you have it in your heart to see to their better education standards. I also would like to point out to you that I built my home in a rural area that is low crime. And now the proposal is saying that you want possibly to send my child to a school that is in a high crime area. And that is an extreme concern as well. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Murray. I live at 6115 Trumpet Drive in Suffolk. My two children who are here tonight, one of which is a student at Pioneer Elementary, I just want to make it known that any effort to rezone him to a downtown school will result in him being put into a private school. I'm also a small business owner in that same general area. We've been residents in the area. I fully support the school system and would like to continue to do so, but I'm not going to subject my child to that sort of environment or treatment and sending him to a school that's not fully accredited. And unfortunately, that's the situation you're going to find a lot of us parents are in. I, like Pam, purchased property in a rural area in 2013 to move my daughter away from a school that was not accredited. And to find out that that's a possibility that could be coming down the pike for my son, I'm just not going to accept it. So I implore you to think twice and think hard and have a good night.
Hi, good evening. My name is Corianne Mayfield. I'm at 126 Wood Lake Terrace. I have two children. One currently goes to Nansman Parkway, and she's in second grade. And my son goes to JFK, not by choice. we moved to Suffolk in a very great neighborhood that's pretty much 50-50. And I understand what you guys are trying to do about desegregating the schools. To my understanding, this was made 48 years ago, from what I've read. So 48 years ago, most of the parents were not even born. Can't speak for all, but most. That includes our children, obviously. Sorry, I'm nervous. Times have definitely changed, including same-sex marriage, taking down Confederate monuments. A lot of things are changing, as well as the school districts. I'm pleading with you to rethink the school zoning. I understand where you're trying to come from with the 60%, 40%. So I've also read that it's 60% black, 40% white that you're trying to rezone or make the schools. So currently, Nansman Parkway is 49% black and 41% white. With the new proposal, which makes no sense, it's going to be 69% black and 26% white. Now this kind of makes no sense to me as why you guys are trying to fix some schools and not others. We bought our house in a nice neighborhood. Our home prices will go down, and we will be pulling our kids out of public schools to put them in private schools. You're going to find a lot of parents, as previous parents have said, that this is going to be happening, and you're going to ruin the school systems. I'm not saying that you guys are going to exactly do that, but I'm pleading with you tonight to please make the right decision and rethink some of the boundary lines. Now I'm looking at the boundary lines, and they kind of make no sense. You have one boundary line going all the way down in the middle of Suffolk, and another going all the way up top. Why can't we just make them a little easier for everyone? There's going to be a lot of busing issues, and as people have said before, their kids are going to be on the bus for hours, not to mention before and after school care. So I'm pleading with you today to please rethink some of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Appears that those who would like to speak have spoken. We thank you for your input, and we will try to proceed. Now we will have the report by the superintendent, Dr. Whitney.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to the podium our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. LaToya Harrison, to introduce our annual Fine Arts Report. Dr. Harrison.
Thank you, Dr. Whitney. Good evening, Chairman Copeland, Vice Chairman Byram, school board members, and Dr. Whitney. I'm very honored to call up to the podium our Fine Arts Facilitator, Dr. Jolene Neighbors, and she also serves as the Fine Arts Department Chair at Nansman River High School, and she's going to be sharing with you an update on our Fine Arts program here in Suffolk Public Schools. So thank you. Dr. Neighbors.
Chairman Copeland, Vice Chairman Byram, Superintendent Dr. Whitney, members of the City of Suffolk Public School Board, Assistant Superintendents Dr. Rice and Dr. Harrison, distinguished guests, parents, and students of Suffolk Public Schools. Good evening, esteemed ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Jolene Neighbors. I'm the Fine Arts Facilitator for Suffolk Public Schools and a very proud, longtime arts educator in Suffolk Public Schools. Tonight, I am pleased to be able to deliver the first annual Fine Arts Report Card, a new yearly feature as a part of my job in curriculum and instruction. In Suffolk Public Schools, we have the following, as you see, as areas of study. We have three primary areas of fine arts instruction: music, visual arts, as well as theater arts. All are encompassed both in elementary and secondary, with the exception of theater arts, which is primarily secondary. Several facts about the fine arts, particularly that pertain to what our young men and women in Suffolk Public Schools are doing. Did you know that young people who participate in the arts for at least 3 hours on 3 days each week throughout at least one full year are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement. They're more likely to be elected to a class office or any office. They are 4 times more likely to participate in a math and science fair, and they're 3 times more likely to have better school attendance. Young artists, as compared with their peers, are likely to attend community events, participate in youth groups nearly 4 times more frequently, and one of my favorite statistics is that they perform community service 4 times more often than others. I can personally attest to having seen this throughout my education career as watching young men and women have more of a sense of community and a willingness to give back of their time because of their involvement in artistic endeavors. Arts education makes a tremendous impact on the developmental growth of every child and has been proven to help level the learning field across socioeconomic barriers. It has a measurable impact on at-risk youth in deterring delinquent behavior and truancy problems, while overall increasing overall academic performance. And again, as an educator, I can attest to having seen this happen time in and time out, where young men and women improve in everything that they do because they are now involved within some aspect of arts education. We are also finding on a national level that businesses are more likely to hire young men and women out of high school because they have had some element of arts education within their curriculum. Because of the fact that this is making them more creative-minded, which is one of these skills that's now recommended as part of the 21st century learning skills. You have to be creative and you have to be community-minded. Arts education brings all of these things together. Research studies continue to show that these students that have this high level of involvement continue to have their risk level of not graduating or not doing well in school come drastically down. The arts are proven to also help close the achievement gap, and extensive research has found that the learning in the arts is uniquely able to boost learning and achievement for young children, students from economically disadvantaged circumstances, and students needing remedial instruction. So I come to you tonight to bring you several celebrations. First off, we have the music in Suffolk Public Schools. I bring to you tonight several things that I know you will be proud of. We had 6 students make all-district orchestra, 15 all-district band, 23 for all-district choir. We had 1 student perform as part of the National Honors Choir at Carnegie Hall. We had 1 Virginia Honors Choir student and 1 all-state choir student. The National Association of Music Education actually assesses students as part of their teacher assessment. This is one of the rare things within curriculum and instruction as a whole within the state, in that we as music teachers are assessed very publicly, and it is shown out in the public as to whether or not we're doing our jobs within the classroom. And I think you can see by that our teachers definitely are doing their jobs. And then, as you can see, I've listed all the students' names that have made different honors, and you can read over that. I'm sure you have that in front of you as well. As part of the music celebrations, I want to make you aware of a few upcoming fine arts events that I know you'll want to attend. The first off is actually this Saturday at 2 o'clock. We have our All-City Choir at Kings Fork Middle School at 2 p.m. The following weekend is All-City Orchestra, again at Kings Fork Middle at 2 p.m. All-City Band at Kings Fork Middle at 2 p.m. And we also have our Youth Art Month celebration on Saturday, March the 24th from 10 to 2. Additionally, we have the Stars Elementary Gifted Program for Music at Kings Fork High School on Thursday, March 29th. And I hope to see all or most of you there. Visual arts. Again, it's a thrill for me to be able to tell you all these wonderful things that our teachers and students are doing. We had a recycling project through the high schools where they were in the news with the students from all 3 high schools because of their collaborative work. Again, 21st century learning skill. All 3 high schools participated in the Suffolk Exhibit of Excellence, winning 1st place and 3rd place. Tri-Cities Art Show at ODU was this past fall, with another one coming up in May. We also have the upcoming Sister Cities Art Show, and we have continued education through the Suffolk Art League. And while I'm at it, I would like to thank the Suffolk Art League, as they have always and continue to support Suffolk Public Schools with master classes and continuing education. We also currently have the Tidewater Region President for Virginia Arts Education Association is a faculty member in Suffolk Public Schools. Theater arts. We also have the president-elect of Virginia Theater Association. We have at least one high school that's ranked within the top 15 for Virginia Theater Association, as well as having numerous all-district actors and all-state actors. We also have had another high school finish well within the VHSL Theater Festival. We have a large show coming up at Nansemond River, The Lion King, in April. And we now have Theater 1, 2, and 3 offered at the schools. And we're currently working on getting the Theater Tech industry certification within Suffolk Public Schools. This falls under the CTE, where they can actually go out and work as soon as they graduate from high school in any given audiovisual capacity. A few things to think of as we progress and plan for the future. Obviously, I'm in front of you tonight, so you've added a fine arts facilitator role to help coordinate the fine arts program division-wide. We need to continue to assessing resource needs in fine arts area, and we'll begin purchasing some consumable resources at the division level rather than at the building level. And this is a very important strive that we are working on. More encouragement for arts education as students perform considerably better in school and have a higher graduation rate when participating in arts education. Increased fine arts exposure and experiences to ensure our program is competitive within Hampton Roads and within the Hampton Roads overall educational viewpoint. We need to continue to expose and to explore other opportunities, such as expanding our elementary music program, offering weighted arts courses, offering college preparatory classes for those going into arts careers, increase professional development opportunities by those skilled in the fine arts content areas, and more curriculum development for the fine arts. And a few parting thoughts for you all. Suffolk Public School students and all students are statistically more likely to graduate on time. All students score 85% better on all standardized tests, including SOL assessments, because of that correlation of arts education bringing things together. Students are 80% more likely to be hired by employers because of their having taken an arts-based or creative-based course in high school. And all students make real lifelong connections that enable them to understand culture and educational needs better, as well as become positively contributing members of society. Suffolk Public Schools gets a good grade for its role in arts education. Obviously, there are some things that we are working on, but we are making wonderful strides towards them. And I thank you so much for your continued support of the arts and arts education for all of our students in Suffolk Public Schools. And I'll open it up if you have any questions.
Dr. Neighbors.
Yes.
All of the statistics that you gave are very impressive. Why is an art student more successful?
Whether or not they actually go into a career as an artist, they have learned to make connections. These connections where we take history and science and math and English and everything makes sense. It works together. Why do we have to study facts and figures and statistics if we don't know why they're important? And when you start looking at cultural history and the cultural ramifications of being an art student, all these things all make sense. And so suddenly the reading comprehension, the understanding levels just rise considerably because they have a greater understanding of the world.
And what the other thing I was thinking about is that an art student has to consistently practice and work at these skills, and this type of self-discipline is probably also a contribution, I guess.
Well, you're not going to improve without discipline. I tell my students quite often that I would rather have somebody with a good work ethic than somebody that's incredibly talented, because talent will only get you so far. You have to work. And students learn that through arts education. They can't just come in and say, today I'm going to be the next Michelangelo. They have to work at it. They have to continue their craft. They have to practice the piano. They have to continue to sing. They have to memorize material. And it's one of those things that the more they work at it, the better they get, so they actually see the tangible outcomes. And whether or not they go into an art field, it remains to be seen. It's the fact that they can now do it and apply it to real-life situations. Thank you.
Dr. Neighbors, you talked about citywide resources as a goal that you have. Could you give us an example of that?
Yes, sir. Consumable materials within the fine arts, they're very expensive. And school to school, It varies as to what is needed. One of the things, and I'll give you an example, it sounds minuscule, but it actually becomes rather large expense, is drawing paper. Every school should have a certain amount of drawing paper at the beginning of the school year. This should not come out of their allocated funds for their specific, for that specific teacher, because that allocated money may vary, and so they should start the year off with a decent amount of drawing paper, of scissors, appropriate scissors, depending upon the age level, crayons, drawing materials. These things should not have to come out of allocated funds, but come from the city.
I just want to say I've known you for a while, and I know you're such a dedicated person, and we're very lucky to have you, and I'm glad that we have started the facilitation of this, the fine arts, and I look forward to us having a lot more accomplishments. And I do believe in education, you have to tap into everything. You have to make a student aware of everything, and I think the fine arts really does that. And it brings out the best in many of our students.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Ms. Byram.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nabel,
Thank
for
you.
your comments and for your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next on the agenda, you'll see our school safety update. I'm going to call to the podium Dr. Suzanne Rice, our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. Dr. Rice is prepared to give you just an overview of some of the safety measures that we're taking in light of the situations that we've been facing most recently. Dr. Rice.
While he's making that change, I will also like to thank Dr. Neighbors not only for what she's doing currently, but also for agreeing to choreograph our now famous flash mob dance at Convocation 2 years ago. So I do appreciate that.
That's right. She did.
We're trying to forget that, Dr. Rice.
It's famous now. I mean, it's history.
She did that too.
I'm sure it's out there on video somewhere. Okay, again, thank you, Dr. Whitney, Chairman Copeland, Vice Chairman Byram, and school board members. I'm going to bring to you some highlights of some safety measures that we have in place currently in our school division and things that we're looking forward to implementing. What you see before you now are some practices and drills that are mandated to take place in every one of our schools. To the right of each one of these, you'll notice how often these should occur during a school year. These are the minimum numbers. And so by that, what I mean is, for example, if you look at the random metal detector checks, you'll notice that it says 10 times a year, which is monthly. But this is just the minimum. So if schools choose to do that daily, weekly, bi-monthly, it's completely up to the school. So what you see here are basically the minimums that they are required. I will say that we have increased our awareness a little bit more in some of the lockdown drills and changing some of the format and how we're handling those in light of recent incidents that occurred in Florida. And schools are doing some walkthrough drills during some crowded times in the buildings right now. So those are taking place right now. As far as building security, we have all of our schools with access panels to buzz in to the front of the school. These doors remain locked at all times, as are all the doors in the building. We are adding them to 4 schools. We hope to have that finished by the end of the school year, which means that all of the schools will have these security access doors. We have video monitoring in all of our secondary schools and a minimal amount in our elementary schools, but right now we're seeking to put some more video camera and surveillance within all of our elementary schools as well in key locations. We have school resource officers currently at all of our middle and high schools. We have school security monitors at our high schools currently. We're adding 1 more per school there, but the idea will be that we move forward by putting a school security monitor in every one of our schools, elementary through high school. And all of these folks will be trained. And then, of course, we have threat assessment teams at every building, and these folks were just recently trained a couple of months ago. They're able to take a threat to harm self or others and determine the level of the threat. Staff training that has been ongoing, and we're going to increase. We have school-wide positive behavior interventions and supports. That's in 11 of our schools. All of those staffs have been trained, and we plan on integrating so that all of our schools are using PBIS. In those schools, we have restructured what ISS looks like. It's no longer just to sit and do your work in a quiet place. It's also a place for rehabilitation, so we're working with those folks that are monitoring those rooms to go through some skills so that we're changing behavior instead of just sending kids there and then sending them back to class. We've increased some mental health awareness. We've offered youth mental health first aid that was mandatory for all counselors and social workers this school year. We've also added this year, and it's currently going on right now, the More Than Sad Suicide Prevention Program, which is an awareness of mental illness. And those are going on right now with high school 10th graders, the high school staffs, and the parents and community at each one of those high schools. The goal then is to move it forward to middle school so that we are doing it for 8th graders and the middle school staffs and those parents and communities. That being said, we'd like to sustain that ongoing year after year so that it's an 8th grade and 10th grade opportunity. We also have anti-bullying going on right now. We have a person from each one of the schools who attended a training so that we can begin a campaign of anti-bullying in each of our schools so that they understand what victims should do and how they should respond, and any bystanders also. And staff and students all should be getting this training. In the restorative practices, we have teams from all the secondary schools and some select elementary schools that will have some folks that will receive training this coming Monday, actually, a full-day training on how to use these restorative practices in the schools. It's currently being used in the court system for quite a while, but we're bringing it into the schools. And this is just a highlight of some of the partnerships that we're very proud of. The community, first of all, we'll say that with families, we try to do as much communication and be as transparent as possible whenever we have an issue within our buildings. And we get that sent home through flyers, peach jar, phone messenger, and we try to do it the day of the event, whatever it was. We have a very close tie with the Suffolk Police Department. They have currently agreed to walk us through some of the drills and go in and observe the schools going through some of these drills and offer us any suggestions that they may have for us tweaking any of those drills. The Suffolk Sheriff's Department is a partner with us. They currently go into all of our elementary schools, a deputy assigned to each one of those schools, and if they're not there daily, they're at least there a few times a week, and they're there to build relationships with the kids and build that positive relationship between law enforcement and students, but also there as a resource as well. We have a connection with Virginia Center for School Safety. Those folks have offered us and provided us some free training, so they have been a tremendous resource for us. Our local mental health agencies, we have a strong tie with those, and we're trying to increase that, as a matter of fact. And then we have also a tie with the Suffolk Fire Department, very similar to the Suffolk Police Department, where they work with us on drills. Any questions that I can help you with?
I have a question. Have we considered the idea of our students having individual buzz-in, buzz-out cards, identification? You know how the teachers have the cards that, I mean, not cards, the identification tags where in order to get in the building, you have to scan it? There are schools that have that. I was just curious to know whether.
And so you mean when they're coming in the front door, like after the opening of school?
That students have to have ID cards, that have to have ID badges that where they can't get in the building without them. Maybe it's just a crazy idea. I thought that some schools were doing that now. That's okay.
Schools may do that perhaps if they have mobile units, but right now we just have the employees with those badges.
Yeah, and you know, that's another thing. The mobile units, how secure are they?
They're locked at all times.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other question? Thank you, Dr. Rice.
All right, thank you.
And the last item on the superintendent's report is calendar of special events. If you'll turn to page 13, you'll see a number of activities that are coming up. Dr. Neighbors has already informed you about this month, which is music in our schools, and the various activities that are taking place in celebration of that. Of course, we do have spring break coming up April 2nd through the 6th, and our Rookie Teacher of the Year reception is coming April 17th, where we recognize our rookie teachers. And that concludes the superintendent's report. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Dr. Whitney. Next, we have the consent agenda. If there are anything that any board members like to have to be discussed, please indicate such.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
Now we have unfinished business. Dr. Whitney?
Yes, sir. The first item you can see is the superintendent's proposed financial plan 2018-2019. We have no comments regarding that, but we did want to place it under unfinished business in case you had some comments or questions or concerns regarding that. If not, I'll take you to the second item under unfinished business, which is to revise. You have already voted for the March 20th special call meeting to take place, primarily to approve the financial plan. In addition to that, we're requesting that we start at 4:30 during a closed session in case we have personnel issues. At 6 p.m., we'll have the Lakeland High School honor grads presented. And we also would like to have our strategic plan update by Dr. Harrison, which we've been working on. So you can see that the date is March 20th, and the location would be Lakeland High School. That is an action item.
So this action, yes.
I move that we approve the March 20th meeting at Lakeland High School for all of those items.
Second.
If board members will please vote. Motion carried.
Next, we have proposed school schedule changes. Dr. Whitney?
Yes, sir. I'm going to call to the podium Dr. Harrison and Rice to present to you the proposals for the school schedule changes. And of course, this is an action item. If you'll turn to page 15, you can follow along with their presentation.
All right, hello again. So what we have here on this one slide is a synopsis of everything that we have given to you already. We presented the last two board meetings. In the first column there, you will notice that looking at the current, which is one of your options here, of course, to keep things as they are. Currently, we have 4 tiers. We have middle school, high school, elementary A, and elementary B. This will not add any additional time to elementary, and this would mean absolutely no changes. And then you'll look what we have for proposal 1 that we presented, moving to 3 tiers. Again, just to reiterate, the problem being that the difference in time between going to the current high school and elementary A is only 35 minutes. Therefore, elementary A schools have a very small chance of having on-time buses with only 35 minutes between those dismissal times. So the proposal 1 is to have middle school first, elementary second, high school last. This proposal does include adding that 10 minutes into the elementary school day. So this changes actually the elementary and the high schools. So you'll notice there that we have the start times 1 hour apiece and the dismissal times 1 hour apart. The third proposal was again to keep it at 3 tiers. This time we would say the same rotation through middle school, high school, and then elementary. You'll notice the difference in start and dismissal times. It's not quite an hour between the high school and elementary, but at least it's a full 50 minutes. Do you have any questions, or do you want to review anything that we had prior to the slides on these tiers?
Talk about the impact of proposal 2.
The impact as far as the time change or the
Tier A would actually be moving to the B
yes, and
schedule.
I mentioned that a little bit ago, but I will say again that the reason we want to go to the 3 is because we don't have that full hour or 50 minutes between each tier. So in the current proposal between high school and elementary A, it's 35 minutes, which means that elementary A rarely has on-time buses.
Any questions to Dr. Rice?
And I'll let Dr. Harrison speak a little bit about the 10 minutes and how that will impact the calendar next year.
Dr. Rice, before you leave the podium,
Yes, ma'am.
I know that one of the biggest concerns in my neighborhood is buses getting there on time, and from what I've heard from other people, that's the same thing.
Mhm.
This 50-minute window that we're giving in the last proposal 2 is supposed to allow us the time. Do we need an hour or do we need 50 minutes?
I think the 50 minutes will work because I think the 50 minutes will work. I would love to stand here and tell you that we're going to guarantee on-time buses all the time, but that would be a matter of making sure that we have bus drivers.
I know it's not guaranteed, but
Yeah.
I'm saying under unusual circumstances.
Yes, according to the Transportation Department.
Under normal circumstances.
Yes, ma'am.
will this
According to the
work?
Transportation Department, looking at where we're moving from high schools to the elementary runs, they said that 50 minutes would be sufficient. Okay.
Good evening again, and I just wanted to highlight the additional time change that we've discussed in previous meetings with proposal 1 and proposal 2. Both of those proposals include the additional 10 minutes for elementary schools, which would amount to approximately the equivalent of about 6 additional days, bank days for the elementary schools with the added 10 additional minutes. So you see highlighted on this particular slide the current school hours for elementary and secondary. Currently, our elementary students are in school 6 hours and 15 minutes, which equates to, which gives us about 5 hours and 35 minutes of instructional time. Comparing that to secondary students who are in school 6 hours and 35 minutes, which is 6 hours and 5 minutes of instructional time. And then again, the proposed time, 6 hours. The proposal 1 and proposal 2 would give us 6 hours and 25 minutes for elementary students, which would give us a school day which includes 5 hours and 45 minutes of instructional time. So I just wanted to make sure that you keep those things in mind as you review the proposals, that the additional time is included in proposals 1 and 2.
Dr. Harrison, at our last board meeting, there was a gentleman that came up and spoke. He was from the north, and he said that they had banked additional hours and days, and that if by chance at the end of the year it didn't snow, then somehow they got that time back. Has there been any thought about if we were so fortunate as to not need that time, if at the end of the year there might be some pleasant surprises for the kids or the teachers? Or do you know yet?
We've had some discussion about that. The challenge with that is that the additional time would be it would be the equivalent of days, not actual days. The hours added, the minutes added would equate to additional minutes that we could use. So in terms of state statute, students have to attend school 180 days or 990 hours. So this would be additional time above the 990 hours that equates to days. So it might be a little bit tricky when if we start giving that back because of
Maybe not days, but maybe hours,
Right. So
well, anyway,
that's
I think it's
something
something to think about.
It is absolutely something we'd have to look at, and we'll be submitting to you after this and that is something that the calendar committee did discuss, and that's something that we will be presenting next month with the calendar committee's proposal.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this. This is done and considered, as I remember us starting this conversation, so that we wouldn't have to do Saturday school and take holidays and all this stuff away.
Absolutely.
If we do this. So
Yes, ma'am.
the worst possible thing that could happen is we give the students more teaching time.
Right.
Basically. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other question?
Dr. Rice, can you move back to the, I'm sorry, Dr. Harrison, can you move back to the slide that has the proposals, please? Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Proposal 1, which moves up the elementary start times.
Second to that motion? Motion dies for lack of a second. Does anyone else have another motion to make?
I do.
Yes.
I move that we accept proposal number 2.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
The next item, Mr. Superintendent Dr. Whitney, is proposed rezoning elementary school.
Yes. I'm going to call to the podium Mr. Terry Napier, our Director of Maintenance and Planning. As you know, we have presented to you a number of proposals. Mr. Napier is going to summarize these proposals, and this, of course, is an action item. You'll find this item on page 19.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As Dr. Whitney said, we did make several proposals to you last month for your consideration. Tonight, we're going to very quickly review the options that are available to you under those proposals. Beginning with the elementary school level, the first option would be the Florence Bowser Elementary School only. As you know, we are opening that school in September. That would meet all the stated rezoning criteria. It would include only Driver Elementary School and Creekside Elementary School. It would reduce the student count at Creekside from 952 to approximately 711, which is about 82% of that building's capacity. It would include all of the current Driver Elementary School zones, so all of those children attending Driver would go to Florence Bowser, and we would open Florence Bowser with about 730 students, which is about 75% of the new building's capacity. The second option for elementary under the proposals is to rezone division-wide. This also meets all of the stated rezoning criteria. It would include all of the elementary schools as we discussed last month. It would redistribute student populations to better align with school capacities, and we are told by transportation that all bus routes would be under 60 minutes in length. So under the proposals we presented you at the elementary school level, these are the two options under those proposals that we see. Are there any questions about those two options?
I have a question. I've heard parents come up with some information that I understand is incorrect. The primary purpose of this was not to balance the schools to make them 60-40. Is that correct?
That is correct. That was not the primary goal.
And both of the plans were approved. I know that we worked through this with the Department of Justice. Is that correct?
I can't say they were approved. They said that they could support either plan.
But they would support
Right.
either plan. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear, that was not what that was not our primary goal.
Any other questions about the elementary plans?
Action item, if it's,
I would like to make a motion that we accept the first option of a rezoning Florence Bowser's Elementary School only.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
Mr. Superintendent, the proposed rezoning of the middle school.
Yes, Mr. Napier?
Middle school. Option number one under the proposals, Colonel Fred Cherry Middle School only. This would involve John Yates and the new Colonel Fred Cherry, only those two schools. It would reduce the student count at John Yates from about 1228 to approximately 554, which puts us at about 71% of the current John Yates building's capacity. It would divide only the current John Yates zone. No other middle school zone would be affected under this option. Under this option, we would open Colonel Fred Cherry with about 643 students, which would put the new building at about 80% of its capacity. Also, under this plan, the division-wide middle school proposal, that plan did meet all of the stated criteria. It would include all of the middle school zones. It redistributes student populations to better align with school capacities. And again, we are told by transportation that all of the new bus routes would be under 60 minutes in length. Any questions about the middle schools?
Yes. Do we have a middle school minority majority plan?
Yes,
Yes.
we do. Yes.
Wasn't aware.
Forest Glen and Forest Glen and John F. Kennedy are involved.
Thank you.
I'd like to move that we adopt the first proposal, number 1.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
Mr. Superintendent, proposed rezoning high schools.
Mr. Napier?
High school options. As we discussed last month, we did look at the high schools as far as rezoning. We also looked at the high schools as far as rezoning division-wide. As we told you last month, we found ourselves in a situation where we really could do nothing with Nansemond River High School, so we came up with these two proposals, and it was the best that we had to offer you. Lakeland and Kings Fork High School only. This would include both Lakeland and Kings Fork. We could reduce the student count at Kings Fork from approximately 1,504 to about 1,386, which places that building at 85% of its capacity. We would increase the student count at Lakeland from approximately 1,046 to 1,164, which puts that building at about 78% of its capacity. Under that plan, Nansemond River High School will remain the same at approximately 1,549 students, 104% of its capacity. There is also the option of maintaining the current high school zones, which would maintain everything the way it is today. Any questions about those two options?
Well, Nansemond River would be in the same place anyway,
Exactly,
either option.
yes.
And you would only add about 40 students,
It's like just over 100.
100 students.
Yeah, it's not a big impact, but it does get the numbers a little bit better in terms of building capacities. But I will remind you that we aren't over capacity at either of those buildings now. We're just a little bit low at Lakeland.
I'd like to move that we adopt high school option number 1 for Lakeland and Kings Fork High School only.
Appears to be lack of a second again. We
I'll second it to get on the table.
beg your pardon?
I'll second it to get on the table.
Oh, you're second to get it on the table. Second is so, to get it on the table, I understand, for discussion.
Should we have questions or concerns at this point? Is that what you're asking for?
No, we can just vote.
You can also, if anyone has any unreadiness, they can also discuss whatever their unreadiness is to the motion. And then after that unreadiness is expressed, then the chair can call for the vote.
Unreadiness.
I do, as
Okay.
I look at this, and the reason that I do is because it's not going to have a major impact on either of the schools. It would just be redrawing the lines to move a small number of students, and that is my concern. And the high school that we need to impact, Nansemond River, which is over capacity, we can't impact anyway.
By building another high school.
There have been discussions for a long time about an underutilized facility as Lakeland High School, which has 1,046 students. And even it doesn't significantly, by increasing the student population there by 100 and some students, it does improve the utilization of that facility and gives us some space at Kings Fork High School.
I think that we could put the same amount of thought into perhaps in the future moving programs to Lakeland High School rather than rezoning it, because we could put programs there that may move 30 or 40 students at a time or even more, and then better utilize Lakeland High School without disrupting the lives of the present students who are happy at whichever high school they are in.
Can you give an example of programs that you're talking about?
Well, now, I'm not trying to upset anybody, but I mean, for example, the IB program could go there instead of where it is. Project Lead the Way could go to Lakeland. I'm not suggesting that we do it. I'm just saying that there are ways that we can utilize Lakeland High School without unnecessarily disrupting the students at their present school. That's what I'm thinking.
Ms. Bouchard, I was on the committee that was set up to talk about the specialty programs. And one of the goals of the committee was to eventually have a specialty program at each high school.
Right.
So if we're going to destroy what was originally started, I don't think that's a good move.
Well, I'm not saying that we would necessarily move those programs that are already there. We now have a special program at each of the high schools. There are future programs that we will be putting in, and we can put those programs at Lakeland. As I said, I'm not trying to disrupt the IB program or the Project Lead the Way, but I mean, I don't see any particular advantage to having Project Lead the Way at Nansemond River High School or to having it or to have the IB program at Kings Fork High School. It doesn't matter the building that it's in, it matters the program itself. So I wasn't on any committee, and I don't want to try to disrupt anything. I'm just saying that we can still utilize Lakeland High School without rezoning that school at this moment. That's my position.
We have had, if I may, we had a wonderful presentation of the arts in the school system where I was principal. One of the things that they did to do the kinds of things that we want to do and to manage the program, an art and theater program, a high school program dedicated to art and theater. There are a lot of creative ways that we can look at programs that we can put into those schools. If I were to see, for instance, at least a 10% increase by redrawing the lines and drawing some students out of Lakeland Zone, but I don't see that. I see that as possibly 8% with the number of students that we can draw out unless we start cutting up communities and making zigzag lines, and I just don't see the need to do that. I just see that from our experience, even from our town hall the other night, people who are committed to their high school are committed to their high school. They really are attached to it, and I just think we ought to respect that.
A call for the question.
Dr. Brooks-Buck, it is 118 students, which would be over 10%.
Well, I'm looking at the percentage in the I see 70% now, and I see 78% at the top. Okay.
Call for the question.
If board members will please vote.
This is on one, right?
Proposal 1. Motion is denied.
a motion now in order for another motion.
I move that we accept the rezoning proposal number 2 for high schools.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
Superintendent, you have any further
No, sir.
on unfinished business?
No.
Now we will go to our new business, have none. Public speakers on non-agenda topic, we have none. Business by board members, begin with Ms. Skeeter.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank all the parents who have contacted me about the different issues, and I hope you will contact me about some other things now that you've learned to call or text message or whatever. I've enjoyed the conversations. Most of you have been very positive about Suffolk Public Schools, and what I'd like to say, no matter what school your child attends, when you talk about the school, you talk about Suffolk Public Schools, whether it's positive or negative. If I ask you, where do your child go to school, and you say Suffolk Public School, we want a positive image out there for our school system. I've had the opportunity to visit many schools, watch them in action. You brought it to my attention, so I went out to see, and I found many, many positive things going on. So we ask that you continue to be good PTA parents. You bring information that we need to know so that we can make good decisions on what our Suffolk Public School is supposed to be projecting into your children in academic level. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitnick?
Yes. One item that was left off the calendar of events is on April 27th will be the 4th annual Suffolk Education Foundation Gala to support the arts in Suffolk Public Schools, and that goes along with Dr. Neighbor's presentation tonight. It's an evening to come out and celebrate the arts in our school system. I would like to commend whoever was responsible for bringing the More Than Sad program. I had an opportunity to attend the parent and community workshop at Nasman River last week, and the presenters were very professional. They were able to answer the questions, and they introduced the video and showed the video that would be shown to students, and I'd just like to commend who was ever responsible for that. And I'd like to thank also all the people that I've been in touch with or have been in touch with me, and for those who came out to the town hall meeting on Monday evening that Dr. Brooks Buck and I shared at Creekside Elementary School. The information that received, whether it was by phone or by email or through the town hall meeting, helped me shape the votes that I made this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mitnick. Next, we have Dr. Brooks Buck.
I'd like to say that I appreciate also the comments from my community. We all vote in accordance with the things, at least we try to, that one, we think are best for children, but two, our constituents share with us that they want. We represent people, and we should represent their voices in whatever we choose to do. If this experience has in any way been sad for me, it's the negative comments I've heard about our schools that are struggling. At any point in time, any school can be struggling. The whole school's not failing because they didn't pass the English SOL. I want us to keep that in mind. Next year, is it next year the new criteria begins? Next year, we'll have a new assessment criteria. Things may go down, things may go up. At one point in time, I know Natchman Parkway was on our list of schools that where there was some difficulty. We were able to bring them up. I know that we'll be able to do the same thing with the schools that are in trouble right now. Our staffs work very hard at those schools, and I'll say to those parents who are still left that didn't leave, while we hear a lot about studies that show that the teacher is the entity that makes a difference, there were studies a long time ago that showed interested parents make a difference. Wherever your child goes to school, I'm a military wife, and so my children have had to go to school all over the place. Wherever you go to school, if you want your child to succeed, you stay interested in your child's education. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dr.
I too want to thank all of you for contacting me to send me letters and email me and call me, because it was important that I hear from you. I'd like to say that I'd like to congratulate the girls basketball team from Kings Fork for their tremendous effort in getting to the state championship but losing, and the girls indoor track at Madison River for having a great year as well. Thank you and have a good night.
And so is the UVA basketball team. They won the first.
Wahoo wah.
Wahoo wah, yes. Okay, I just want to say one thing. I want to thank Oakland Elementary, for inviting me and my dog Scout to Read Across America. And I would also like to encourage Pioneer Elementary School and other elementary schools to invite my dog and me. Scout is so well loved by all of the kids, so we would love to come anytime you'll let us in your classroom. She's especially good with, if you have any kids that are on the autistic spectrum, she is wonderful with that. So please invite us and we'll come.
Thank you. All right.
I'd just like to say, as other board members have said, thank you to the parents for showing such an interest. We do listen to our constituents when they call, when they email, when they stop us on the street, and we want the best for our schools. We encourage you to continue your part as parents, helping us make this a better school system, and that is the only way it will truly become a better school system. Also, on the Kings Fork girls basketball team, congratulations to them, even though they lost to Lake Taylor, I believe. They had an outstanding season, and I especially take note of that coach there, Maurice Fafana, who is one of my former students. And I like to see that he is doing so well, and I commend him and his young ladies on a wonderful season. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment. All of the board members' comments were well taken. And one thing, even though this person is not in Suffolk today, but I would like to inform some of the members who are listening. Princess Anne High School, which in Virginia Beach, the coach at Princess Anne High School is a graduate of Suffolk Public School System. He finished Forest Glen High School. So I'd just like for that to be known. For some of you probably don't even know who he is, but he has won about 10 state championships in a row. So now we will have information items. You may look at that, board members, if you have no problem with that. We will. We don't have any. Personnel report. Mrs. Byron.
I'd like to move that we approve the personnel report.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
And I'd like to make a motion that we approve the pupil personnel report.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
Student appeal.
And I make a motion that on Student Appeal 17/18-4, that the student may pursue an advanced degree, that the student may continue on ingenuity, that the student be allowed to participate in graduation at Ted Constant Center, that the student be allowed to take the SAT and ACT, and that the student's suspension will go through June the 8th of this year.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
If there aren't any other businesses to be brought up by this board, I declare we will adjourn. Thank you.